What if the problem was never a lack of courage, but a lack of inner permission? There's a moment when you notice something quietly unsettling. You're not stuck because you're incapable, or because you don't know what needs to change. You've thought about it, analyzed it, replayed it in your head 1,000 times, and still, you don't move. It isn't a lack of ability. It's as if, on the inside, change hasn't been cleared for takeoff. Your body senses it before you can name it. Hesitation, tightening, a subtle signal that says, it's not safe yet, till you make the unconscious conscious. It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. There was a time when you didn't negotiate for permission. As a child, you acted before you understood, reached before you knew what reaching meant. You tried, touched, moved, not because it was safe, but because it was natural. That's what life looks like before fear learns to speak, before identity tightens, before the mind starts demanding guarantees it can never fully have. Permission wasn't something you had to earn. It was something you arrived with. The urge to explore came first. The rules showed up later. And at some point, trying stopped feeling innocent and started feeling dangerous. Your body learned to pause. Your nervous system learned to scan. And permission slowly turned into something you believed you had to deserve. Let this question rest against you for a moment, without rushing to answer it. When did trying stop feeling natural and start feeling risky? This is where a quiet split happens, not in strength or intelligence, but in inner structure. Some people move before they feel ready. They don't confuse a mistake with who they are. They learn while in motion, adjusting as they go. Others need to understand everything first. They see the risks, imagine the outcomes, wait for inner certainty before taking a step. That waiting looks like responsibility, like maturity. But slowly, action becomes conditional. Movement starts requiring guarantees. Self-worth begins to fuse with performance. You can have clarity, insight, and still your body won't follow. Doubt doesn't paralyze the person who acts. It paralyzes the person who believes action must wait for a guarantee. This is the subtle cost of losing permission. You don't fail loudly. You stall quietly. Fully aware, fully capable, and internally restrained. It's not that you don't know what to do. It's that knowing has become a prerequisite for moving. And that knowing is never complete. At some point, the problem stops being behavior and becomes identity. Not who you actually are, who you believe you are. Quiet sentences start running in the background. I'm the one who quits. I'm not consistent. I'm weaker than other people. They don't feel dramatic. They feel factual. And once identity hardens around them, everything else follows. Change becomes effort. Progress becomes an exception. Consistency feels like a daily battle. Even when you try to move forward, something pulls you back. It isn't fear. It's familiarity. Acting against your own identity creates internal tension. Your nervous system resists contradiction more than it resists staying stuck. That's why insight alone can't hold change. As long as the story of who you are stays the same, every new habit feels like a temporary rebellion. So the real question becomes, how do you sustain change when it goes against who you believe yourself to be? Picture your mind as an old security system that's still running the building. You can't tell the difference between real danger and something new. It follows one rule. Whatever is unfamiliar must be a threat. So every time you try something new, the alarm goes off. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're leaving what's known. That's why discomfort shows up so fast. A tight chest, racing thoughts, the urge to stop, distract, back away. The alarm isn't responding to failure. It's responding to movement. Discomfort doesn't mean you're off track. It means you're no longer standing where you used to stand. Your nervous system is built to protect stability, so it reacts before it understands growth. The tension you feel isn't necessarily a danger signal. It's a sign of internal displacement. You're not automatically unsafe. You're just in new territory, and your system hasn't learned that yet. This is the phase most people avoid, not because it's dramatic, but because it's blurry. When you start to change, your old reference points disappear. Habits that once told you, this is who I am, stop responding the same way. The new ones aren't solid yet. There are no clear markers, no visible proof that you're doing it right. Confusion walks in. What if I'm getting all of this wrong? This is what happens when the old structure dissolves before new meaning forms. The mind reaches for metrics, the body searches for safety, and neither one finds it right away. Your nervous system tightens, scans for certainty, pulls you back toward what's familiar, even if it was limiting. But confusion is not failure. It's a sign the old map no longer fits. So try asking yourself, gently, what if this uncertainty isn't the problem, but evidence that something real is shifting? When discomfort drags on, the mind starts looking for easy exits. Endless scrolling, back-to-back episodes, automatic consumption that fills the space without asking anything of you. That's what happens when your nervous system wants relief, not resolution. Distraction restores predictability, something familiar, controlled, emotionally flat. Nothing surprises you there. Nothing challenges who you're becoming. For a moment, the tension drops, your body releases, the inner noise gets quieter. But the process pauses too. Every time you numb the discomfort, you also interrupt integration. The new identity stalls halfway through. This isn't weakness. It's self-protection doing its job. But protection has a cost. The more you choose emotional escape, the more change feels unstable. Your mind quietly learns a pattern. Movement equals distress. Stillness equals relief. And the cycle keeps reinforcing itself, not through failure, but through repetition. Here, transformation stops being about discipline and becomes about relationship, the one you have with yourself. Self-rejection sounds productive at first. I have to get rid of this. I shouldn't be like this anymore. There's something in me that needs to be fixed. Creates pressure, urgency, a sense of control. But underneath, it carries shame. And shame doesn't dissolve patterns. It preserves them. That's what happens when you fight a part of yourself without understanding why it exists. The behavior might quiet down for a while, but nothing truly integrates. Self-understanding moves differently. It asks, why did this pattern form in the first place? Not to excuse it or romanticize it, but to see the intelligence behind it. What once protected you doesn't disappear by force. It softens through comprehension. Anything in you that you don't understand, you're likely to repeat, not because you want to, but because it's never really been met. The quiet turning point is this. You don't heal by rejecting what showed up to keep you safe. You heal by understanding it so deeply that it no longer needs to stay. Most of us were taught that action should follow certainty, that trust comes after proof, that confidence arrives once the outcome feels secure. Inside, change doesn't work like that. In reality, it's softer and riskier. First comes the bet, then the repetition. Meaning only settles in much later. That's what happens when you stop waiting for guarantees and let yourself act while you're still unsure. Your nervous system resists, your mind objects, old alarms flare up. But beneath the noise, something new forms. A different internal reference point. Not certainty, familiarity. Permission isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to move without demanding guarantees. To tolerate uncertainty long enough for your system to recalibrate. Waiting for confidence usually keeps you stuck. Confidence isn't the entry point. It's what emerges from staying in motion. So let this question land. What if waiting for certainty is exactly what's keeping you where you are? No one learns to walk by waiting to feel stable. There's no moment when the body announces, everything's aligned now. It's safe. What actually happens is simpler and messier. You stand up. You wobble. You fall. None of that proves you're incapable. It just means you're in the only process that works. Stability doesn't come first. It's built through imbalance. Permission in practice looks like this. Not moving flawlessly, but allowing yourself to stumble without turning the stumble into a verdict on who you are. A fall is not an identity. A pause is not a failure. A misstep is not proof you were wrong to begin. When you allow yourself to trip without erasing yourself, your nervous system learns something new. Movement doesn't equal danger. And slowly, without forcing it, balance begins to form. Almost no one names this. The people who struggle most to move forward are often the ones who see the most. They analyze deeply, anticipate consequences, chase inner coherence before they act. Every step is examined from every angle, every decision weighed against who they think they should be. Every possible mistake feels magnified. This is what happens when awareness grows faster than permission. Insight stacks up, understanding sharpens, but the green light never comes. Intelligence turns inward. It becomes self-monitoring, hesitation dressed up as responsibility. It's not a lack of capacity. It's too much consciousness without enough permission. The more you understand yourself, the harder it can be to move unless permission grows alongside awareness. Insight alone doesn't create change. It just reveals the gap. Movement begins when understanding is finally allowed to act. Maybe self-transformation doesn't start when you find the perfect routine, the right explanation, or the day fear finally disappears. Maybe it starts earlier and quieter. It begins when you stop demanding guarantees from yourself, when you allow movement without certainty, when you let action come before confidence. Change doesn't start with behavior. It starts with permission. Permission to act while unsure, to learn while moving, to be in transition without turning it into self-judgment. Viktor Frankl wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Maybe that change isn't about becoming someone else, but about releasing the invisible brake that kept you from moving as the person you already are. So let this last question stay with you, without any pressure to answer it right now. What if your next step doesn't require courage, only permission? If something in this landed for you, feel free to share it in the comments. And if you know someone intelligent, aware, capable, but quietly stuck, consider sending this their way. Sometimes permission begins the moment something unspoken is finally seen.